The Chattahoochee Casa is a volunteer-powered program that stands beside children in foster care, ensuring their voices are heard and their needs are fully represented in juvenile court. Casa volunteers advocate for children to help judges make informed decisions that lead to safety, stability, and healing. Tiffany supports and equips those volunteer advocates I'm trying to read my bad writing here, who stand with children navigating the foster care system, guided by a deep commitment to equity, compassion, and the inherent worth and dignity of every child. Tiffany works to build meaningful partnerships within the community to advance Casa's mission of providing consistent, caring advocacy for children and families. She's also a devoted mother of 2 boys, one of whom is with us today, and she draws strength from her family, friendships, and the time spent at the beach. I don't know if we're going to learn more about that or not. Through her work, she is passionate about fostering hope, accountability, and collective responsibility for the well-being of children. Please help me welcome Tiffany. Give me a second here. We probably ought to separate our mics a little bit here. Excuse me a second. Go back to where I was. These mics don't like to get too close.
They don't like to be close.
There we go. There you go. You're up.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for having me here today. It is truly an honor to be able to come and have this opportunity to share space with a community that values compassion, justice, and the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Today, I have the honor of sharing the story of Casa. Like Ron shared, we are court-appointed special advocates in the powerful role everyday people can play in standing alongside our most vulnerable people in our community who have experienced abuse and neglect. This is a story about hope, advocacy, and what becomes possible when a community shows up for its most vulnerable members. So, Proverbs 31:8 reads, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves." As Casas, we are compassionate adults who come from all walks of life, who have been specifically trained to advocate and who have been appointed by our local juvenile judges to speak up for the best interest of our children in our community who are navigating foster care. Casas, you may wonder, what do Casas do? Casas, we get to know the child personally. We build relationships with the child, with their placement, with the community that supports them. And so that's academically, that's the services that they participate in. We are in place to advocate for the whole child. So not just in the courtroom, our voices aren't heard to speak up for them, but we are there to, like I said, speak up for the whole child in every area that is needed. We are also the one consistent person along a child's journey through foster care. I'll talk about this a little bit more, but children, they experience, when they enter foster care, they experience first their removal from their home, no matter how tragic or the trauma that they've experienced, that was still their home. They experience placement changes. They can experience quite a few placement changes. They can experience changing their communities, where they go to school, their friends. So the trauma that they experience is not just the removal, it's also getting used to a community that they may not be familiar with. If you're wondering, how do you become a Casa? Oh, not how you become a CASA. What we do as CASA, we gather information. We are not investigators. We are not reporters. We are not information sharers. We gather information on those CASA kiddos. And again, that's information that is specific to that child and the whole child. So we are speaking to all parties. That's the school, that's their providers, that's their placements, and that even includes their biological parents. We facilitate, so we identify resources that the child needs, whether it is related to their community, whether it's related to counseling services, extracurricular activities, if they need assistance in school. So we help facilitate those conversations around IEPs and 504s. If they want to participate in sports, we're facilitating those conversations. And then we're advocating, we're speaking up for that child's best interest. Again, not just in the courtroom, but in all areas in which that child needs us to speak up for them. And then we're also monitoring. We're monitoring that services are being adequately and that they are put in place in a significant amount of time to meet that child's needs. We're making sure that the services that have been court appointed, that they are being met, that the children that they are receiving the services that they need. How do you become a CASA? I know you all were thinking that. Like, how do I become a CASA? Well, it starts off with your interest, your heart to serve. We will set up a time to interview. There's an application that you would complete. And in that interview, it's my opportunity to get to know you, get to know where your heart to serve is. Where it is, whether it's younger children, older children, what has called you to serve children in foster care? And sometimes that also includes asking some really tough questions, because a lot of people, they do come to us and they have this heart to serve. But I mean, if I'm being honest, sometimes our program may not be the right fit for where their desire to serve is. So sometimes we have some tough conversations around their desires. But then you go through, after the interview process, and if you've been approved by our team to go through the training, there's background checks that we complete, which are criminal. We want to know your criminal history. We want to know if you have any history with the Department of Family and Children Services. There's a sex offender registry, Social Security verification. We want to make sure that you are the right person, that there is nothing in your background that would prohibit you from advocating for these children who are very vulnerable already. Our pre-service training, what that consists of is 30 hours of National CASA curriculum, and it includes, as you can see, quite a few areas that pertain specifically to children who have experienced trauma and neglect. After you have completed training, you will be sworn in as an officer of the court by one of our local juvenile judges. There's a slide in here that has some pictures, and you'll see some of our recent classes that have been sworn in. Melissa, she is a former foster youth, and she said, being in foster care is living in a constant state of flux. Homes, schools, families, everything is always changing, suddenly and without warning. The only constant was my CASA. Without her, I would have been lost in the system. So why is CASA so impactful? Children enter foster care because of abuse or neglect. They experience instability and trauma. Life-changing decisions are being made on their behalf, and a lot of times without their voice. CASAs are the most consistent person in a child's journey through foster care. As CASA, through our gathering of information, we provide fact-based recommendations that help lead the court to make clear court decisions and to help lead that child towards permanency. This is a slide I was talking about. As you can see down here in the bottom left, this is one of our most recent volunteer classes that was sworn in. Isaiah 1:17 is a verse that is a call to action focusing on social justice and moral integrity over empty ritualism. This verse emphasizes defending the vulnerable. CASA speak the truth for our children. In the courtroom where there are so many adults that are sharing their story, as CASA, we are able to, again, build that personal relationship with these CASA kiddos and be able to share with the judge, the attorneys, and all of those involved what that child specifically wants, needs, and what's in their best interest. CASA holds systems accountable, and we promote fair decisions. So, in speaking with Kelsey earlier, we talked about briefly our overburdened system. This is our challenge. As you can see, there will be over 15,000 children that will find themselves in foster care in Georgia alone this year. On an average, children will spend over a year in the foster care system. And the average number of homes that child will see is at minimum 5. As you can see, there's a lot of instability, there's a lot of change, and this is what our CASA kiddos are experiencing, or not just our CASA kiddos, but our children who are experiencing foster care. But there is a solution. One, as volunteers, you can, as a community, you can make a wise investment. One year of CASA advocacy costs less than 1 month of foster care. As a staff member, we can supervise up to 30 CASA advocates, and those advocates can advocate for at least 75 children. So as much as Chattahoochee CASA needs you, our children in our community need you more. With CASA, children are twice as likely to find a permanent home. Permanency looks different for each child. Permanency can be through a guardianship with a relative or in a kinship placement, or it can be a guardianship within that place, someone who is not related to that child. Permanency also can look like adoption. So half as children, children with CASAs are half as likely to re-enter the foster care system as well. And then they are more likely to succeed in school. Our vision is to serve every child in foster care. In the state of Georgia, there are 2,660 CASA volunteers. There are 8,167 children that have experienced abuse and neglect that have a CASA volunteer. But there are 5,507 children who are still waiting to be served by a CASA. Locally, our community, we have, in Chattahoochee CASA, we have 61 active volunteers. We have 7 male volunteers. So I'm really speaking to our men in the room. And we have 173 children being served. that have been served for the fiscal year of 2025. Chattahoochee Casa, we serve 6 counties. We serve Muskogee County, Harris, Talbot, Taylor, Chat, and Marion. Right now, we have a total of 517 children in foster care within these 6 counties. And as you can see right here in Muskogee County, we have 445 children who are in foster care right now. Our program has, for our fiscal year 2025, have submitted 271 court reports. These court reports are so important because they break down every area in which this child is in need. It talks about their story, their reason for removal. It talks about their academics, what services they are receiving medically, what services, if they're receiving any counseling services. It breaks down the parents' court-ordered case plan and how they either are compliant with that case plan and working their services or how they're not. Our volunteers have so far committed 3,758 hours. As a Casa volunteer, one of the requirements is for you to visit these Casa kiddos, your Casa kiddo, either once a month or once quarterly. It all depends on where they're placed in the state of Georgia. But the amount of advocacy or the time that you get to spend with these Casa kiddos is truly up to you and your schedule. And we have a lot of dedicated volunteers who go above and beyond, not just getting to know their Casa kiddos, but showing up at school events, traveling to see them out into the community, and participating in whether it's their family time or anything pertaining to their Casa kiddos. As you can see, they also travel a lot as well. Casa does not provide any reimbursement for mileage. So as you can see, our Casa volunteers traveling almost 30,000 miles without being compensated. It says a lot about their dedication to their Casa kiddos. And 31 children, I'm very excited about this, have achieved permanency. And I can speak to, as a Casa supervisor, quite a few of those children were Casa kiddos that I was either personally advocating for or supervised those cases. And as much as we hear and see about the trauma and neglect that they have experienced, one of the most beautiful parts of Casa is when that child reaches permanency and you literally see a light in their eyes and a weight that has been lifted when they have found permanency. So how you can get involved. Become a Casa volunteer or a friend of Casa. A friend of Casa is someone who commits to speaking about Casa and sharing the Casa mission to help us build our volunteer base. You can make a charitable donation, and again, share the Casa story. Our volunteers, a lot of times our volunteers come to us from word of mouth. It's from people like you, a community like you that have gone out and have shared our story. So I look forward to hearing about how volunteers have come to us because of you. I don't know if you've heard, we have an annual Red Shoe Party. It's a fundraising event that's coming up in April. If you scan the QR code, you can get more information about that. There's also a auction that is a part of our Red Shoe Party. It's a fun event, but it's for a great cause. And the best part is you get to wear red shoes. Or a pop of red for our gentlemen who don't own a pair of red shoes. You can wear a red tie. Get social with us. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also contact us. That's our mailing address, my email address, and our office number. I expect to have lots of voicemails when I go back to work on Monday. I'm just saying. Thank you again for your time. I'd like to take this opportunity to answer any questions you may have, or to elaborate on anything that I've shared that you would like some more information on.
You know, I got to say something. So we just met. Amos and I adopted our 4 youngest children through foster care, and we were in South Florida. South Florida doesn't have a Casa program, but it's a parallel advocate program. And our children had an advocate, Mr. Mike. He was a retired gentleman, and he was full of life. Well, he still is. He was with our children through the foster care process, through their TPR hearing where they had to testify against their birth parents, and through our celebration of adoption path, and we got to adopt, and he was there. He spent time with them. He went to their soccer games. He went with us to the museum, and he's still in contact with us 6 years later. And the kids just really fondly remember him. We send him pictures, he sends us pictures. So I really want to encourage, especially the gentleman, to consider becoming an advocate for the kids, because they really need someone who's consistent and stable. When we were going through training, we were told, be so consistent, it's boring. Just, you got to be the boring anchor for these kids because they're going through so much trauma, like constantly. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you again. What a wonderful presentation. I also wanted to share a little bit. So many of you know I was a foster parent, then took a little break to deal with some health challenges, and in that time became a Casa and became familiar with the Casa program, and it's been so rewarding. I then had to take a step back because there was a conflict of interest because I wanted to get back into foster care, which has been wonderful. And everything I learned through the Casa program has really helped shape the way I show up as a parent now. And it's been so helpful and so informative. I still remember, and sometimes still to this day, when I talk about my journey as a foster parent, people will say, and I'm sure Amanda and Amos have heard this as well, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And Casa is something that many people can. So again, I want to echo what Amanda said. If you're interested, not everyone can be a foster parent, that's for sure. But so many people can be a Casa. So I was wondering if you could talk about when the next training dates are available to become a Casa.
Thank you for sharing that. We are currently going through training right now. This training class will end the last Thursday of this month. Our next training class starts, if you give me a second to look at my calendar, it's the beginning of March. March 4th is when our next training class starts, and it's a 6-week training class. So it'll start March 4th, and then after that we'll have another training coming up in May. I can share those specific dates with you, and you can share it with your members if you like. But we have, like I said, a training coming up in March.
Without getting too political, is there a growing need for funding from federal or state?
I think that there's always a need for funding when it comes to advocating for children. I would say, I'll just leave it at that. There's always a need for funding.